is about encouraging, maybe not risk, but investment, innovation. And we'd love you to reflect for a moment on how you think this experiment is going and what more needs to be done, particularly in the energy area of next generation energy.
Right. Well, going to the corporation analogy, I've got a CEO, the president. I got a very diverse board of directors, 565 of them.
It's a big board.
In Congress. But within that, there's many things you can do within the agency. Certainly, getting ARPA-E going, that was, of course, voted on by Congress, proposed by the president. Lots of bipartisan support. But once you have the funding to say, let's get started, within the agency, you can then say, how can it be different? And so we went in there thinking this could be a new example of how we want to get a lot of Department of Energy programs. And it's, yes, you're going to have to take risks. That was designed into the program. It was written into the American Competes Act. That philosophy was written into Rising Above the Gathering Storm. That it's research, it's development, and it's very. We don't expect all those things to work, but they're short hits. This is not a long-term thing. This is a short hit. Get in there, see if it's going to work. It's going to be a home run. We wanted home runs. Now, after 3 years, you say, have there been home runs? Well, maybe not, but there's people rounding second and third base, so it's looking good. And then the culture in ARPA-E is something else that is very different. You had a bunch of program managers who sit around and instead of politely presenting their program and advocating for their program, they would listen to this. What about
so,
that?
What are the takeaways then for what we've heard this morning?
That was exactly the thing we got in Bell Labs.
Some new foundational questions.
That, you're not
I tried to be honest in sharing with you the level of maturity of the technology, the open physics questions, and the interesting things that are coming out.
And that is very different.
But what I want to share with you on this last slide is how physicists in hiding are invading like locusts computer science departments. Why are we doing this? Since when have we become so interested in computer science? Because we're really doing physics.
There is no Bell Labs today.
So the real question that's motivating many physicists is how do we stabilize quantum coherence
is now
in open
replicating and what do you think is important to sort of
We have never probed quantum mechanics at this point.
constructive confrontation? How do you
Looked at big things that are quantum, but they're not big in their complexity. It's still 1 degree of freedom,
that would
2
drive
degree of freedom.
forward?
Well,
We were always used to this idea that decoherence is simply information which is lost to the environment. You cannot do that in quantum computing. You have some 10 to the 5 degrees of freedom, and you're not losing that information to the environment. Does quantum mechanics work there? Interesting question to think
can be exactly the same.
Related questions. How can you efficiently sample the information in many body systems? How can we conceive of machines to treat data fully quantum mechanically? What is really the quantum version of machine learning, of big data science? How do we parameterize, verify, and validate the information capacity of a large quantum system? You have a data sheet for your classical computer. I don't know what the data sheet looks like for quantum machine.
The agenda for today, which is essentially
What is the role of entanglement?
you shared
So I set you up with this picture of the little blue things in the universe showing entangled bits. It's not obvious how much entanglement you really need for quantum computation. So in fact, when you run Shor's algorithm, it's not the entanglement. That's a direct resource. You sample entangled states, but it's the periodicity which allows you to get Fourier transform. So that's a rather open question. What resources do you really need to build a quantum machine? And how do we express this advantage? This idea that I was telling you, once you have the right classical resources, how do you factor that into your understanding of the power of a quantum machine? So again, what I want to end with is a very positive note, saying that even if these problems are challenging, for sure we will get something valuable out of this endeavor. Because, at least with physicists, I don't think we've solved the theory of all of physics in 1913. That would be rather smug, even though we are sometimes like this as physicists. But that would be rather smug to say that the quantum mechanics of Bohr in 1913 has solved all the problems. I don't think we've looked at physics at the complexity frontier. So this endeavor, ultimately, I think, will teach us something new about highly entangled systems. So I'd like to stop there.
I thought, as one sort of thinks about the future history of humanity, if we don't take those paths, then it will be really very different. If there was no internet, if there was If we were unable to sell sustainable energy, obviously there would be economic collapse. If we were unable to become a spacefaring civilization, then eventually something would happen on Earth that would eliminate civilization as we know it. So I thought those three things needed to be addressed, and not that I expected actually in college that I would address them but I didn't think it's not as though I thought I'd have an opportunity to do it. But that's essentially what connects them. There's not any other connection. With respect to, obviously the internet has happened and it's amazing. It's transformed our life, and I think it's actually made humanity much more of a superorganism than we ever were before. And it's given humanity a nervous system. So it's like every cell in the body knows what the rest of the cells are doing, essentially. Whereas previously that would occur via some sort of process, more like osmosis, as opposed to your brain knowing what your toe knows.
Right.
You can be in the middle of the Brazilian jungle. If you have a satellite phone connection, you're connected to all of humanity's knowledge, which is pretty amazing. So, as far as Earth is concerned, I think the biggest problem that humanity faces is one of sustainable energy. If we don't solve that problem this century, independent of any environmental concerns, we will face economic collapse. This is obvious. It's tautological, really. Do the sustainable.
And this is part of what you brought into Tesla. That you're concerned about energy, batteries, and it brings us, really to Secretary Chu. You have a robust. You're one of the recipients of a large grant from the Department of Energy.
Not a grant.
Grant.
No, not a grant.
Loan?
Alone. Yes. If we'd like to change those terms, of course, this would be a good opportunity.
We were back in the green room, and I can tell a deal had just been done.
It's with interest, I should say.
With interest. Okay. In DC, everything's a grant.
Good try.
Yeah. But in sustainable energy, I assume that the loan that you have with interest is really built around a partnership and looking at next generation batteries and opportunity in creating this. And so I'm interested in how you see your own product in this. And Stephen, I'd love to draw your thought on why this investment, well, not investment,
exactly.
Loan makes sense.
Sure. Well, first of all, I think it's worth just talking a bit about the program under which we received the loan. It's called the Advanced Technology Vehicle Manufacturing Program. It was actually signed into law by President Bush, although people think it was signed by Obama. No, it was actually signed by President Bush. And then there was quite a careful consideration of the applications that came in. And one of the requirements actually of that loan was that you had to be a viable company. And as a result, General Motors and Chrysler were ineligible at the time because they were going through bankruptcy proceedings. And unfortunately,
are they back to viability now in terms of the grant makers or the loan makers?
I think they're more or less back to being viable. That required obviously dramatic restructuring, but because the bailout of GM and Chrysler occurred roughly the same time as the announcements for the Advanced Technology Vehicle Manufacturing Program were announced, people conflated those two and thought they were the same thing. They were very different things. And in fact, in order for us to the program is milestone based as well. So in order for us to receive portions of the loan, we must make progress along with concrete milestones. And I think that's a very sensible way to structure a program. And that's why, for example, one of the participants in the program, the disbursement stopped when that participant was unable to complete the milestones. So I think that's a very sensible way. I think it's really structured very well.
Are you hitting your milestones?
We've hit all of our milestones, yeah.